Here's Max. He's an alright guy, but when it comes to manners, he's not exactly top-notch. All his friends, colleagues, and even family are convinced that Max simply doesn't know how to listen. A conversation with him is like a game of ping-pong, where the other person's words are the ball that somehow got lost in the bushes, while Max is happily sending out a new batch of stories about himself with his racket. He breaks all the unwritten rules of communication so naturally that no one has time to figure out what just happened. For example, there's this one rule: don't interrupt. Let the other person finish, even if your own thought is already hanging on the tip of your tongue. But Max, apparently, hasn't gotten the memo. So, Max and his friend Alex are having a chat. Alex starts, "You won't believe it, my cat the other day." "Wait, a cat?" "Oh, I've got a dog. She's so funny, chewing on slippers, running around the house like a mini torpedo." Max cuts in enthusiastically. Alex tries to continue. "Well, so anyway, my cat." "Oh, speaking of which, you won't believe what happened," Max interrupts again. "My dog tore up the report I was supposed to bring to the meeting. Papers were everywhere, like confetti, all over the house. I was so stressed out." Alex leaves, without ever getting to finish his cat's story. Max didn't notice anything wrong with the conversation. Max is known for turning any conversation back to himself. One day at the office, they were talking about food recipes. "I tried making lasagna once. It was such a complicated recipe," Jessica started sharing. "Lasagna?" Max cuts in. "I made grits with sausages today. I had no idea how much grits to put in, and it ended up far too much. It had spilled over and made such a mess. It took me ages to clean up. To make it all worse, my sausages had popped. I think it's such a skill to get them out of water at the right time." His coworkers exchanged looks, but Max didn't notice. He was too excited talking about his grits and sausage disaster and how it almost made him late for work. He didn't notice how Jessica quietly left the room. Steven excitedly shares some big news with Max. "My son was born yesterday." "That's awful," Max exclaimed, his eyes glued to his phone. Steven froze, caught off guard. "What do you mean?" he asked, baffled. "Look at this. This tie doesn't match his suit at all," Max said, showing Steven his phone. Steven paused for a moment, visibly confused. Okay," he muttered, brushing it off. "Anyway, I was in such a rush yesterday to see the baby that I slipped and twisted my ankle. It hurts so much, I might need to see a doctor." Suddenly, Max burst out laughing and shoved his phone towards Steven again. "Check this out. This guy totally wipes out. What a klutz." But Steven wasn't laughing. Not at all. People had started avoiding conversations with Max, and eventually, he noticed, it seemed like everyone would find an excuse to leave as soon as he opened his mouth. Why is this happening? He wondered. Determined to change, he Googled tips on being a good listener. One piece of advice stood out: maintain eye contact. Look into your conversation partner's eyes to show you're paying attention. Max thought, I can do that. The next day, Max went to the bank to give it a try. He approached the teller and stared at her with wide, unblinking eyes. The teller had already noticed him in the line. Something about him seemed off. He looked tense, almost nervous. She could have sworn he had been glancing at the security cameras, and his coat pocket bulged suspiciously. "I'd like to withdraw money from my account," Max said with a crooked smile and a raspy voice, locking eyes with her like a predator spotting prey. The teller forced a nervous smile. "Sure. How much would you like to withdraw?" $300, Max replied, still staring. He was trying so hard not to blink. "The ATM doesn't recognize my card." "One moment," the teller said, her eyes flickering to his clenched fists. "Please enter your PIN." Max leaned over to the keypad, typing in his PIN without breaking eye contact. To the teller, it felt like he was trying to pierce into her soul, reading her every thought. When he entered the wrong PIN twice, she couldn't take it anymore. She quietly pressed the panic button. "Sorry," she said, stepping back. "I'll just take a short break." She hurried away to a safe distance. Before Max knew it, two large, armed security guards loomed over him. "ID, please," one of them said firmly. Under the suspicious gazes of everyone in the bank, The guards inspected his driver's license and searched him thoroughly. Max had to spend a painfully long time explaining that he wasn't a bank robber. He told them he was simply practicing eye contact to be a better listener, but he was new at it and very nervous. After a long interrogation, they finally let him go. The next day, Max replayed the disastrous scene in his mind over and over. Why did my attempt at eye contact go so horribly wrong? He wondered. How can I improve? In the end, Max came to a conclusion. Next time, I'll just nod and not stare so much. After his unfortunate experience at the bank, Max needed a few days to recover before attempting another piece of advice he'd found online. Show that you care about the other person's feelings. Be empathetic in conversation. I hope I get this right, he thought, determined to try again. When his friend Ryan started talking about his cat's problems, Max seized the opportunity. But instead of calmly listening, he dove headfirst into an emotional overreaction. That's terrible. Doesn't he understand you? How is that even possible? Max exclaimed, his voice rising in dramatic concern. Ryan blinked, clearly puzzled. Max, he just doesn't want to drink water from his bowl. Why are you so worked up? Max, undeterred, pushed on. I totally understand how you feel. Cats are so complicated. You just need to relax. I'm always here for you. Max's attempt at empathy had turned into a full-blown theatrical performance. Max's colleague, Sarah, was excitedly talking about her trip. We went up to the mountains, and the view there was just breathtaking. Out of nowhere, Max chimed in, I ate sushi yesterday. Sarah froze, staring at him in disbelief. What does sushi have to do with this? Max grinned. Well, they have rice like mountains. Sarah shot him a pointed look before deciding to change the subject. Max was feeling down. No matter how hard he tried, he just couldn't seem to become a good listener or conversationalist. He always said the wrong thing at the wrong time, acted awkwardly, and left people feeling frustrated with him. What am I doing wrong? He wondered. Finally, he made a decision. I'll just stay silent. I won't say anything. On Monday, Max took a taxi. During the ride, the driver started chatting enthusiastically about traffic jams, politics, and his favorite football team. Max really wanted to chime in with his own story about being stuck in traffic for 3 hours, or that time he broke his arm playing basketball as a kid, but he remembered his promise to stay quiet and resisted the urge. Instead, he decided to focus on listening. He didn't interrupt the driver. He nodded, said and and kept the conversation flowing with short, encouraging replies. I spend 2 hours a day in these traffic jams. It's just unbearable, the driver complained, glancing at the road. Max nodded and responded. Yeah, that's really frustrating. You know, right now it's not too bad, but on weekends this road is totally blocked. My family and I use it to go to the park. The conversation naturally shifted to the driver's family. He shared that his 12-year-old son was a chess player and had recently taken 3rd place in a tournament. I bet you're so proud of him, Max said with a genuine smile. The driver's face lit up, and he happily launched into a story. Yeah, you're right, I'm so proud. He's really into sports, too. He plays basketball for his school team. But recently, he fell off his bike, almost got hit by a car, and dislocated his shoulder. My wife and I were so worried. Max could feel the driver's worry. He wanted to share his own story about falling off a bike, but instead, he simply said, Wow, that must have been terrifying. I'm so glad he's okay. When the ride ended, the driver turned to Max with a warm smile. You know, you're a really pleasant conversationalist. You know how to listen. Thank you. You really made my day. Max was stunned. He had been praised for saying almost nothing. All he had done was listen, and he was genuinely interested in what the driver had to say. Somehow, that had made all the difference. As Max stepped out of the taxi, he felt a wave of happiness. He realized that listening wasn't easy. It took patience and focus, but when done with genuine interest, it could not only avoid awkward situations but also create meaningful moments. Next time, I'll do even better, Max thought, chuckling to himself as he walked away.